Good evening and welcome to A Rude Awakening. Tonight, episode 6. It's part 5 of special love relationships. And tonight is the basic guidelines for ending conflict or finding a peaceful state in special love relationships. Now, yes, it's still in the realm of duality, um, but it is definitely useful for those of us that have struggled or are struggling with that special love. um, Follow this and follow the words on the screen, but also listen to me and just make use of it. Take out of it what works for you and what doesn't, what you disagree with, throw it away. So here's the reason why spiritual people struggle with relationships. Specifically, this is now aimed at those moving into a spiritual direction, an inward direction, a non-dual direction, moving into awareness. So, as a whole, and spiritual people are very good at this, is we understand the teaching, I am a body. I'm not a body, I am free. I'm still as God created me. We get that. But we still want to be validated and loved as bodies. We want to be seen as beautiful and sexy and handsome and whatever as bodies. We want to be desired sexually by another attractive body. We don't want to be desired sexually by some creepy person. It has to be someone that we sexually desire too. We want our objectified special love body interests to act in us in the way we expect them to. We have, and you'll hear me say this over and over again in tonight's talk. So the masculine objectifies. Ooh, that's terrible. Hey, ladies, masculine objectifies. And the feminine fantasizes. Of course, in a subjective reality, there's an objectification of her perfect fantasy, but the fantasy is the equivalent of objectification. So the feminine fantasy is exactly what the masculine does when he objectifies. Same thing, you point fingers, but you're only pointing at yourself. So we want a mighty companion or a mighty companionship where both of us heal. But he'll say she must not be emotional, overly emotional, and depressed or sad all the time. And she says he mustn't get angry or aggressive or violent. Well, let me ask you this question. Do you remember incarnating as the opposite sex? Do you know what the opposite sex behaves like? Do you know how the opposite sex is wired? Or do you think you know, based on books you've read? Have you ever been in the opposite physicality? Many times you've incarnated in the dream in multiple bodies, different types of bodies, different types of sexual bodies. But can you remember any of it? Do you remember the spirit world? Do you remember God? No, of course you don't. Secret dream is kept from your awareness. And so the masculine wants it to be more logical, and the feminine wants him to be less aggressive and more sensitive. They all want Rip the cowboy, but they want him to watch chick flicks with her and hold her tight and cry with her and buy her flowers. Why do many women want the Rip the cowboy? Because they want the man, the manly dude, the protector, the cowboy, the rough and tough and rugged. Then they want to change him into some sensitive ninny fart. Not going to happen. Okay. Um, Same polarities. Remember the talk on the pyramid of conscious evolution. Same polarities make for great friends. Opposite polarities attract sexually first and foremost in order for the engagement to happen through lust and desire, because therein lies the lesson. And it's always about our misperceived expectations of what happiness should be. So you've heard the saying where men marry women hoping they'll never change, and women marry men hoping that they can change them from day dot. And yet it's the same separation sequence playing out in two polarized ways. And what's the separation sequence? We fell asleep because we desired to make known the unknown. We wanted to prove to our source that we could make manifest something completely unnatural and yet derive joy out of it. Then, because we forgot that we fell asleep, we felt abandoned, rejected, unworthy. And then the idea of sin and guilt and fear crept into the dream. And subsequently, as we then fractured ourselves into different thought forms, spirit beings, we try to remember what we are through the experience of what we're not. That experiment failed. So we hid our first dream from ourself and then projected into thought informed physical reality in the hope that we could, through the realm of physical manifestation, make manifest our eternal happiness, unlike God's eternal happiness. And what do? We failed. And then we cried for help, and God responded and called us back to awakening. His first movement was the creation. His final movement is the creation. His first and final steps are the same. It's just extension. Of course, while we dream, we think there's a final step. There isn't really. It is always the same. Okay, so I'm now going to just read from you something very important before we continue, because it's inevitable that you're going to feel insulted as I take you through the differences between the masculine and the feminine, and you're going to get defensive. So remember this. The Holy Spirit, who leads to God, translates communication into being, just as he ultimately translates perception into knowledge. While you're in body mind, you're operating on perception. The ego uses body for attack, for pleasure, and for pride. The insanity of this perception makes it a fearful one indeed. The Holy Spirit, the voice for God, the memory of God in all of us, sees the body only as a means of communication, because communicating is sharing it, and because communication is sharing, it becomes communion, mighty companionships. Because perhaps you think that fear as well as love can be communicated and therefore can be shared. And yet, this is not so real as it may appear. Those who communicate fear are promoting attack. Think of all the religious dogma out there. They think they're sharing God's word. What are they doing? Creating fear. They're promoting attack. An attack always breaks communication, making it impossible. Egos do join together in temporary allegiance, but always for what each one can get separately. The Holy Spirit communicates only what each one can give to all. He never takes anything back because he wants you to keep it. Therefore, his teaching begins with the lesson to have, give to all. And what are you giving to all? It's not stuff. It's not activities. It's the pureness of being. It's your present moment awareness. It's your unconditional present moment love. It is total acceptance. The closest we get to unconditional love in the world of dreams is undifferentiated acceptance. This is a very preliminary step, and the only one you must take for yourself. It is not even necessary that you complete the step yourself, but it is necessary that you turn inwards in that direction. Having chosen to go that way, you must place yourself in charge of the journey, where you and only you must remain. Present moment awareness. This step may appear to exasperate conflict rather than resolve it, because it is the beginning step in reversing your perception and turning it right side up. This conflicts with the upside down perception you have not yet abandoned, or the change in direction would not have been necessary. And what is that step? You think that to have something, you need to keep it because of the scarcity principle. At this point, so some people remain at this step for a very long time, experiencing very acute conflict and then complaining they're trapped in the fifth step or the sixth step or whatever, eye of the needle nonsense. At this point, they may try to accept the conflict, and that's what they do, and then try and ration it away with spiritual talk, rather than taking the next step towards its resolution, which is abidance. Abide as awareness, rest as awareness, and that's where the healing takes place. Having taken the first step, however, they will be helped. Once they have chosen what they cannot complete alone, they are no longer alone. And this is from A Course in Miracles, chapter 6.7, to have, give all to all. So Before we continue, you're going to hear some things that's probably going to disturb you based on your misperception of what is right and wrong. What I'm sharing with you tonight, and I've told you this a few times before, I don't practice as a psychotherapist. I am a strategist and I help organizations turn around through really building team, which is really healing. And and obviously everything I teach from comes with stats and data. I won't use my own opinion. And if I disagree with something, I will go and look for the data to either verify it or disagree with it. And the question here is simply for you. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Now, please do not take anything personal. In actual fact, there is no person. So it's person nil. Okay. So in any relationship, for the relationship to work, the very first thing we need to do, if you just listen to that part of the course, is we have to take full responsibility, first and foremost, for being the dreamer. So it's not you as an individual having a dream. The dreamer has dreamt you up. You're an activity in our dreaming mind, our collective Son of God dreaming mind. And so you have to take full responsibility for being the dreamer. So as above, so below. So if you want to really heal your shadow selves or your unhealed fractures or your unhappy experiences, your past memories, the only way you're going to heal is by taking full responsibility that you, as the dreamer, have dreamt this into existence and you are the activity, character playing out that specific role. And if you are willing to take responsibility, there's a benefit in taking responsibility. No one wants to take responsibility unless there's a benefit. And so there needs to be a benefit for taking responsibility, for making the mistakes in failed relationships. If you don't see a benefit for taking responsibility, you won't approach the problem with inspired, in spirit, enthusiasm for healing. And you will keep blaming your partner. And you'll say things like, yes, I understand, but dot, dot, dot. A but is what you sit on, and I'm not interested. Okay. And you ain't going to come out of it healed while you're still butting. But apparently, women seldom take responsibility, or so men say. So, is this true? Well, in a way, it is. And here's the reason why. The reason why the feminine is less likely to take responsibility than the masculine for failed relationships is because, generally speaking, and this is general, is the masculine is conditioned to take responsibility for making mistakes from day dot. And that's why they told boys cannot cry. And so not only are they held as accountable for making the mistakes, and they're also accountable for pointing out the mistakes they've made. And they're also responsible for and take responsibility for pointing out where mistakes happened so that they can be fixed. Why? Because the masculine is a problem fixer. So it can only fix a problem once it identifies it. Therefore, the masculine will admit to what they did wrong, but, here's the but also highlight what they think the feminine did wrong too. And that just creates conflict. And they therefore also expect their partner to apologize before they start looking for ways to repair and fix the problem together. Now you can see where the conflict goes wrong immediately because the feminine doesn't want to own up to the mistakes. Now we're talking about unconscious special love relationships. When you move into consciousness, forgiveness is the key, and taking responsibility leads to forgiveness, which leads to ending the dream of separation. Interesting benefit. However, when you're talking about unconscious relationships, the need for blame is the way it operates in this world. Okay, so the feminine, unlike the masculine, looks to fix the person as the cause of the problem. And thus, neither the masculine nor the feminine ever agree as to what the problem is in their special love relationships. And they're unconscious. So, special love means unconscious relationships. The feminine generally has been conditioned to find agreeable consensus. Since day dot, little girls are told to find agreeable consensus. That's why they form clusters and clans and birds of a feather. So they don't necessarily take personal responsibility for contributing to the failure in relationships. They rather blame the masculine generally, failing, so they blame the masculine for failing to understand or give the feminine what they want and what they expect. And we've all heard about the idea that men think women expect them to be mind readers. The feminine, being highly intuitive, is often surprised that the masculine doesn't naturally understand the unspoken rules of what's expected from a relationship. And they never will, no matter how feminine they are. The feminine is naturally more agreeable than the masculine and thus rather finds fault with a group or a relationship in itself. And so they have a tendency to find a problem with the actual relationship, but point towards the cause of it. Therefore, the feminine generally has a tendency to conclude that if the relationship failed, then it's not just her husband, it's the toxic masculinity he suffers from. So toxic masculinity is at fault because the masculine as a whole is to blame, as opposed to saying, well, this guy's just a cheat, or this guy's just insecure, or this guy's just that. She'll then blame the masculine as a whole and therefore never really get to the root of the problem, so it can never be resolved. If you want men to resolve something, you need to discuss it with them in an open-hearted discussion so that they understand exactly what they've done wrong. Furthermore, it is generally understood that the masculine is very logically wired to look for solutions to problems, whereas the feminine is intuitively wired to look for who created the problem. Their wiring is instinctual in both cases. And that is why it's said that men try to fix the problem, whereas women try and fix the person, the man, or the whole group dynamic, men as a whole, masculine toxicity. That's why you hear those terms. Okay, so henceforth, unless, now remember, we're now heading towards fixing this, unless healthy boundaries and rules are agreed in a relationship, which is like a contract, and it is transactional in the unconscious relationship, both the masculine and the feminine in their special love relationships, it won't work. And it's highly likely that the masculine will be surprised when the feminine accuses them of making mistakes when it comes to upholding their needs and wants, whereas the feminine is likely very surprised when the masculine doesn't comprehend their needs as if they're supposed to naturally and intuitively know, and they don't know. Okay, so vitally important, unless the two polarities learn to accept the way that they are wired differently, instead of expecting the opposite polarity to see life from their point of view, no relationship will ever work out. Unless there's a significant compromise from one of the parties, or sometimes even both. And where there's a significant compromise, there can be no total peace and happiness. So here's some suggestions for the masculine. Now, both the feminine and the masculine, listen closely. You're both going to learn from this. So for the masculine, don't expect the unconscious feminine to admit to her mistakes, ever. She won't, and she'll keep score every time you expect that of her. Do not try and dominate the feminine into taking accountability. You can't force someone into taking accountability. They will see it as forced submission and keep score. Then as a masculine, you've offered, in order to capture the attention of the feminine in a special love relationship, a romantic relationship, you have to offer safety and security. Don't threaten to take it away. And don't tell the feminine that they are broken and can't be helped and they're neurotic and they're over emotional. Because then you take away the foundation of all feminine needs. Leave strategic manipulation, not manipulation, manipulation for the boardroom and the play track. It's not, don't use manipulation in your relationships. That applies to both sexes. Don't accuse the feminine of being too girly, too emotional, too dramatic, too weak. She's dealing with her own unhealed dramas the best way she knows how. No one gets taught this at school. And if you accuse the feminine of being too girly or too emotional, she'll close down. She'll shut you out. Rather support them in finding the help they need and be supportive, be understanding. When she tells you her problems, listen. In other words, gentlemen, shut the fuck up and just be quiet. Listen. You don't have to say anything, but listen. Don't look at your phone. Don't watch the television. Focus on her. Give her attention. Listen. She doesn't need hours of it. She needs a short little while. She doesn't want you to sit and listen to it all day long. And then don't provide solutions unless the feminine asks for it. Offer help when you offer help, but when she tells you she needs help, then make sure that you understand how she wants to be helped, not your way. Since you've offered help, offer help and then let her guide you on terms of how she wants to be helped, even though you think you know better. Don't mansplain. Don't make as if women are ignorant and incompetent and don't understand anything mechanical. Some don't, but then just as many men don't. So this is vital for both of you. Seek first to understand, then be understood without judgment. Be aware of being over technical and over explaining. Talk at a beneficial and clear level of understanding. You don't impress the feminine with tech talk unless she's an engineer, in which case she's probably more intelligent than you are and she's going to outwit you. They generally are. So just remember that. Don't outwardly objectify her. Now, this is a fact. A man is not attracted to a woman he's not objectively attracted to. So the objective attraction is the objectification. And the feminine has to learn to accept that. And why does the feminine hate being objectified? Because then you're not seeing them. But no one's going to see you at first glance. They've got to get to know you. So just understand, as much as the feminine fantasizes, the masculine objectifies. But remember this much. She's not a car or a motorcycle to be Googled over. Show appreciation and intimate affection. Women don't have the same type of sex drive as men. It's not that they don't have a sex drive. They don't have the same type of sex drive as men. She doesn't want intimacy unless you create a safe, intimate space with her and make her feel desired, wanted, and loved. Learn about her deepest desires and wants and agree as to what you will find and try and fulfill her. So try and figure it out. Ask questions. Men are so afraid of not understanding. And just because being around the block once or twice, every woman is different. Try your best, but be open and honest with what you're capable of doing and, more importantly, in what you're willing to do. And this is vital, gentlemen, those of you that have been raised by single mothers especially, and have only left home at the tender age of 28. Your wife, your girlfriend is not your mother. So respect her homely boundaries. She's not there to clean up after you. Agree on roles and responsibilities. And if you want to be there, make the effort. Get her to want to give you tasks. I mean, men really feel fulfilled when the feminine gives them tasks. But of course, it's only the tasks he wants to do. So be careful as to what you're being expected to do. Okay. And then this is very, very important. Agree on roles and responsibilities. Okay. Now, if you were to ask me to paint the house and mow the lawn and fix the garden, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hire someone to do it. So agree on roles and responsibilities. Okay. But remember this. It's about consistent commitment and being impeccable with your word. When you're being impeccable with your word, the feminine will reciprocate with affection. Now, vital, gentlemen, all men are, we very often the world talks about aggression towards women, sexual abuse towards women, sexual attack on women, rape. A lot more men are attacked by men than women are attacked by men. Something like 8 to 1. Okay, so men are always, since since little boys, under physical attack. Okay, so how do men react to physical attack? Fight or flight. The ones that run are the beaters. The ones that stand and fight are the alphas. That's just the way it works. The ones that out-strategize everyone are the sigmas, and that's a completely different school of male. Okay, but remember this. Men have a tendency to act aggressive. Aggression and not dealt with turns to physical violence. So remember that the minute you act physically violent, even if you're protecting her, you're going to stress her out. It's just the way it is. So learn to deal with your violent behavior in private, in the dojo, on the sports field. You have no excuse. You never turn violent towards the feminine, no matter how disgusting and abusive they've been. You walk away. She's not to be harmed physically, emotionally, or mentally. Protecting her from harm is expected, but losing your temper in public and getting into public fights to defend your ego because you're feeling jealous should never be done in front of her, unless it's one of those attack situations and you really have no choice. If you suffer from aggressive PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, based reactions, get counseling and be aware, both masculine and feminine. PTSD is like alcoholism. You learn to deal with it. It never goes away. It's not like all of a sudden you cured. You learn to deal with it. And it requires vigilance and patience. Okay, for the feminine, take a deep breath and try not to take it personal and don't get triggered. Feminine, don't find fault with your masculine partner unless you're willing to take part responsibility for the mistakes. It always takes two to tango and two to make a mess. What I hear and what I used to hear in my counseling days is it's always the husband's fault, and very often only she would come to counseling. And if she comes to counseling without him, it's not going to work. And you have a session where you have them together, but very often they have to be counseled alone. And only at a certain stage in their healing can you bring them both back together. Because if you have them in the same room, all you're going to do is you have a judge and juror, and it's he said, she said, and you're never going to heal. Don't make it personal and attack their built-in masculinity. It's designed. It's what attracted you to him in the first place. Don't start man shaming for being the testosterone vessels they are, especially in your circle of family and friends. Don't mock him to your in front of, well, especially in front of him, but don't mock him to your friends and family. Men may not be as intuitive as you are, but they quickly figure out that you're doing it. If you man shame him, he's going to lose respect for you. And once the respect is gone, there's no coming back from it. He may stick around, but only while you're the only option. The minute there's more options, if you've man shamed him even just once, there's no coming back from it. Okay, so if you've done that, best you start apologizing until you realize he's accepted the apology. Don't make generalized statements as if all men are aggressive and toxic. If a man is aggressive, it's because of an unhealed trauma. And even when that trauma is healed, he's going to have to manage it for the rest of his life. I'm a teacher, for God. I can teach you Advaita Vedanta, Tao Te Ching. I've read the Bible 17 times cover to cover, probably know it better than anybody else. I've read the Quran, I've read the Torah. I've studied spirituality for over 30 years. If I get physically confronted and attacked, not that I have any desire for that anymore, not even think about it, I will be as aggressive and violent as is needed. Doesn't make me any less aware. Spiritual? I've never been spiritual. I'm not spiritual. I'm awake to the awareness I am. I have no problem giving a snotkop a good double backhanded Jesus slap if they require. Is that too aggressive for you? I don't really give a fuck. Don't make generalized statements as if all men are aggressive and toxic. Have I said that before? They're not all like that. If a man is aggressive, unhealed trauma. Have I said that enough times now? Don't be angry with the masculine because they don't know what you're thinking and what you want. When men know what you're thinking and what you want, you get freaked out by it. Explain yourself. Make sure you understand. Don't expect him to be as intuitive as you are. It just won't be, okay? The masculine cannot. And this will just lead to and create a defensive and hostile confrontation. Don't keep score. You love to keep score, generally speaking. especially with his emotional anger issues. Don't nitpick at his unhealed traumas and past errors. Leave the past where it belongs. If you get into another argument a month or two or a year down the line, don't bring up the past. He's left it where it is. Move from here forward. Again, ask yourself the question, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? Do you want a solution or do you want to keep harping about the same nonsense over and over again? Don't try be controlling. Don't emasculate. Don't make as if their emotions don't count or don't matter, even though their emotions are different to you. They have emotions. It just comes out differently. If you're afraid of his emotional outbursts, then he won't open up and he won't stay open. And never use his emotions against him. Repair, don't attack his vulnerability. And don't interrupt him when he's angry. Let him burn it out. When he's calmed down, then you have the discussion. Don't try and prove to him that he's wrong while he's raging, because then you're going to become an object of his rage too, even though the raging may have absolutely nothing to do with you. You want him to be like you. He's not like you. Don't try and change and manipulate him into what you want him to be and your fantasy hero. Why did you get with him if you are happy with the way he behaves? And why do you stay with him if he behaves in a way that you don't want him to? Why are you trying to change him? Move along. You're not going to change him. And if you do change him, you're going to be upset with him later on because he's changed. Don't try and improve him, or you're signaling that you don't love and accept him for who and what he appears as. Support and discuss the problem instead of criticizing him. You criticize the masculine, he's going to wear off from you and he's going to look for an alternative. That's just a fact. When you give a good man the freedom to be authentic to who he is, he will change in order to serve your needs better because he's a natural problem solver. If you criticize him, he's going to look to replace you. Fact, accept it. Okay? It's just the way he is. And if he hasn't left, it's because he hasn't found an alternative better than you yet. If you see your man struggling, invite him to change. Don't demand or expect. Remember the authority problem. And don't encroach and nag. Don't mother him. Don't act as if he's superior and you know better. Don't treat him like a child, especially with constant emotional criticism. If you desexualize the relationship, he will start looking for a new lover since he already has you as a mother. Stop trying to fix or improve him. That's called emasculation. Emasculated men become resentful, and eventually they will leave and replace you with someone who accepts him as he is. Have you ever wondered why men have affairs with younger women? Why? Because they're a younger version of you, and you've become a grouchy, old, naggy complaint center. Don't punish him by withholding emotion, communication, kindness, and sexual intimacy, especially sexual intimacy. Oscar Wilde once said, everything in life, relationships, is about sex, except sex. Sex in relationships is about power. And don't become mean. You'll turn yourself into his enemy. And some men are like crocodiles. They just go quiet. They go stealth. We all know what men do with enemy. Don't put down what he is interested in, like extramural activities, the sports, the hobbies. Don't make fun of it, okay? And nowadays it's computer games or whatever the hell young men do. I don't know. You know, my age, my group of friends, we ride motorcycles. I don't know. If you make fun of it, you get booted. You don't have to like what he likes, but don't force him or try and force him to stop playing with what he's interested in. Don't criticize his friend. Don't criticize his colleagues. You will instinctively turn loyal men defensive. Men are very loyal to their friends. If you don't like his friend, introduce him to a new one. But don't criticize the friends he has. If you don't like where he grew up and you don't like his community, trust me, he's built very, very loyal relationships there. He may have gone to the military and you don't like his military friends. He's built very, very strong loyalty friendships there. Don't criticize them. If you really want him to change his behavior and you think you know better for him, then introduce him to a new way, but allow him to choose for himself. Importantly, give the masculine time out. Men, masculine, need to recharge. Absence for the masculine makes the heart grow fonder. Don't get overly jealous. It signals to him that you don't trust him. I know women or the feminine very often likes it when the masculine shows a little bit of contained and controlled jealousy. The masculine does not. Okay, he's not responsible for how other women act around him. If he is the kind of insecure, over flirtatious person, then agree on codes of conduct when he's with you. You're not going to get him to behave when he's not with you. If he's a flirt, he's a flirt, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. And if he's a flirt, then don't get in with him. Furthermore, if you don't trust him, then you shouldn't be with him. No further discussion needed, unless you're getting paid for it. And I ain't going to pay you for a discussion on something I already know. Be careful not to use gross generalizations. And you see more and more of this in social media and start finding fault with the patriarchy or the matriarchy. Men need to be better, or women or whatever. Don't do that. Watch out for the blame game and becoming caught with the two-sided social media negativity that grossly puts the blame on the gender war. There is no war between the genders. It's just egoic diversions to keep the mind from awakening to self-awareness. Be aware that it's common for men to look for solutions to problems. If a woman tells her problem to a man, he will immediately go into problem solving and offer solutions. It's natural for him to do that. It's instinctive. Okay. So don't ever say to him, does my bum look too big in his jeans? He's going to find a workout program for you. Okay. And then he's going to recommend a diet or a gym. Now you're all pissed off. You gave him a problem. He's going to give you a solution. It wasn't a problem before you mentioned it. To him, he was happy just as you are. Don't ever say to a man, does my bum look too big on this, or am I getting fat, or am this? He loves you just as you are. Now you point to what you find a problem with yourself. He sees it as a problem that you have. He's going to look for a solution to help you. You're going to see it as criticism. He loves you just as you are. Okay? The men that want you to still act 18 or look 18 for the rest of your life shouldn't be with him in the first place. Those aren't men. Those are boys that haven't grown up. Let men, this is vital. Get this, please get this. Let men do tasks for you his way. Ask him to do something, let him do it his way. If you're going to criticize him for it, he's not going to do it again. Don't criticize, don't nag. If it's that important that it's done in a specific way and he can't do it that way, do it yourself. Let men do things the way he wants to, unless you ask him to do it in a very specific way, and then make sure he understands as to why you want it that way. If it's part of his problem-solving repertoire for you in the way that he demonstrates love, he will do it. Don't criticize him then. Okay, don't. Discuss, evaluate. If a man does something wrong, suggest a better way. Don't criticize. You know how many times I'm saying, don't criticize. The more you criticize him, the more you push him away. And that will be seen as emasculation, which will eventually end the relationship as soon as he's found a better, more fulfilling version of you. It's just the way the masculine works. Accept it. Can't change it. If a man complains and vents about something or someone that triggers him, don't criticize him or suggest that he could be wrong or he could be the problem, especially when he's venting. Wait for him to calm down before giving your critique. And your critique shouldn't be about criticizing him. It should be about evaluating the situation as a whole. Then give your point of view without criticizing or without blaming him. You're not helping him by getting him to see it from all different sides to which he could be at fault. He's going to see it as criticism. Let him calm down and then suggest opinions. Check your programmed bias. Watch the systematic angry feminist, woke Me Too, and angry masculine hate programs. Don't demonize the opposite sex and make the opposite sex into the problem. Don't make the opposite sex the oppressors and your sex the victim. This is the history. Let's move forward. Just because masculinity was wrong up until the 50s and 60s and it's taken forever to change, men have shifted. In the last 20, 30 years, there's been a massive masculine awakening to the feminine. Leave the past behind. You're not going to correct the wrongs by doing another wrong now. Just because a few men have 90% of the world's health doesn't mean wealth, I mean, doesn't mean that all men are dictatorial racist oppressors. Just because a tiny few men have raped women doesn't mean that all men are potential rapists. Just because some women are whores and gold diggers doesn't make all women so too. Just because some women are aggro woke feminists doesn't mean that they all are. Just because some men are old school sexist bastards doesn't mean all old men are sexist bastards. Watch for the gross generalizations. You're not going to help heal any situation if you keep saying things like, you're always doing this. You've always done that. Can't always have done something. You have to have had a break somewhere in time. So watch out for the gross generalizations. That's no way to get to consensus. That's no way to heal. Always remember, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? Okay. Extra importantly, the world's a dangerous place. We understand that. And yes, it's dangerous for the feminine. But as dangerous as it is for the feminine, it's just as dangerous as it is for men. Why do you think men have invented guns? You think they just like shooting at targets and going hunting? They've done that because men are threatened from the very first day a little boy steps into school. There's always bullies, and the bullies are the same ones that bully the woman. The bullies are the same one that rape the woman. They're the same characters, and men have to either learn to blend in, become the comedian, become the beaters of the bully alphas, or become the sigmas, and the sigmas are dangerous. And sigmas don't take shit from men, and sigmas don't take shit from women. Those are the ones you want to look for. You want to find the sigmas, but sigmas don't put up with your drama and your shit. Okay. So be aware that men have been to wars, they've been in conflict since day dot. For men, some boys are suffering from PTSD from the age of 9, 10, 11 already. Okay. And men don't talk about PTSD because they consider it weak, and they look down on themselves for suffering from emotional issues. PTSD creates an aggressive stress response in the masculine. It can become aggressive and even violent. Realize that this is an irrational subconscious response born of fear, caused by the belief that the world is a dangerous place where either you must kill a threat or you will be killed by it. Fight or flight's in your head, built into our DNA. Aggression and violence comes from a need to protect self and family. As long as it's not directed at you, learn to help and support the masculine into a healthy state of living. Now, I've counseled lots of couples where the wife is, or the girlfriend is very upset at his aggression. And I ask, has he ever directed the aggression towards you? No, he's directed the aggression outwardly at X, Y, and Z. Well, if he hasn't directed at you, why are you getting upset? Why aren't you being supportive? Why do you insist that he isn't aggressive? Why did you chase him up? Inevitably, he was the bad boy or the deep, dark, mysterious type that kept his issues at bay. Why are you angry that he's aggressive? Do you want him to get all emotional and cry like you do? If he did, you wouldn't be attracted to him. Please note that in PTSD in women can also create aggressive response, but this is rare in women. Women who suffer from PTSD generally suffer from severe anxiety and depression. The masculine goes into rage, the feminine goes into depression. It's the way we split our fractured self, one indivisible self. Not one is better and the other one is worse. It's all you, desperately trying to remember what you are so that you can awaken from your dream of separation. Awaken to self through non-blaming. We're going to stop and just have a short discussion. We now move into a few life suggestions for moving towards healed relationships. So it's a few do's and don'ts as suggestions for both mighty companions to consider. So if you're in a mighty companionship, consider this with your partner. And if you're single and looking to move into mighty companionships, this is the criteria that you're looking for in order to move into a mighty companionship. And if that doesn't meet this criteria, then you're going backwards and back into special love. So, as I've mentioned before, just as a recap, The reason spiritual people struggle with special love relationships is because although we understand the teachings, I am not a body, I'm free, I'm still as God created me, we still want to be validated and loved as bodies by other bodies. And although we understand that we are spirit, we still want to be desired, objectified sexually by another sexually attractive body. We want our objectified special love attraction bodies to act in a certain way, the way we expect them to. We want sexy and attractive, mighty companions where we both heal, but then he says she mustn't be emotional, and she says he mustn't get angry. And it's always about our way, it's always about our misperceived projections. Okay, without it, be aware that in mighty companionships, polarized mighty companionships, be same-sex relationships or opposite sex relationships, you know, two polarized love interests, if it wasn't polarized, they wouldn't be attracted. They would just be friendships. Okay. That's why women become very good friends with gay men, and why men can be very good friends with gay men. If the one is masculine, the other one's feminine, they could be friends. You know, if, and that's why men together make groups because they're all in their masculine energy, and masculine energies make groups, motorcycle groups. They play golf together. They play sports together. Whereas feminine pull together and create tribes. It's because polarities that are aligned make friendships, polarities that are opposite become attractions. Without understanding how the two polar opposite polarities play out, their wounded, fractured selves, there can be no healing. Unless the two polar opposite fractured selves feel safe and secure in raising their wounded shadows into the light of awareness in a loving and non-judgmental relationship, healing cannot take place. Become aware that the masculine reacts to his shadows through anger and aggression. Realize that the feminine reacts to her shadows through emotional sadness and depression. If two special love partners resist the way that the shadows are brought into the light of awareness, where they can be healed through forgiveness, if you keep resisting, we will not heal our polarized relationships with our dreaming mind, with ourself, in other words. Never forget that the egoic body mind needs to be seen, needs to be validated, needs to be desired for the sake of the longevity of its own selfish, made up identity. Spirit, however, doesn't need anything because spirit is perfect and complete. Spirit only wants to be recognized for the sake of awakening all its fractured selves unto its joyful, peaceful, shared self. So, who or what and where do you think you are? Do you think you're a body? Or do you know yourself as spirit? Because until you recognize the spirit and forget the primary desires of the illusionary, the projected illusionary body, you will not experience the love of God that transcends understanding into knowing. You may experience special love, but that won't fulfill you. And so that's why we're never fulfilled in any relationship, because the love, the illusionary love, runs out. Communicate your wants and your needs. It's not because you're spiritual, you don't have wants and needs. Of course you do. Okay, you don't give up your day job just because you're now spiritual and awakening to awareness. Communicate your wants and needs in open-hearted discussions. Be patient with self and others. Be present with one another. There's man cave time, and sure, get home from work. It's been a heavy day's work, and you go into your man cave, but don't be there the whole night. A couple of hours is enough. Come back. You're with her. Be present. Set boundaries, but leave the past where it doesn't exist. Start with the present, work from there. Forgive one another. Forgive yourself. You've made the mistakes because you didn't know better. If you'd known better, you wouldn't have made the mistakes. You had to make the mistakes in order for you to seek a better way. So forgive one another and yourself and agree on new rules of engagement, healthy boundaries. Vital, vital, vital. Agree on shared values. And although it is illusionary and transactional, it's still important because it's need fulfilling. So agree on love languages. How do I feel loved? I mean, yes, it's still subjective reality, but don't deny your subjective reality until you've moved naturally into unconditional absolute reality. Raise your unconscious healed shadows and agree to help each other heal through mutual trust and understanding. But it requires effort. You can't say, well, I'm just aggressive. You must just accept it. And you can't just say, I'm emotional and you must just accept it. Choose to work and value and validate each other. Don't expect the other partner to be like you. As I've said before, differences attract lovers. Similarities attract friendships. A healthy combination of both makes for great, lifelong, holy companionships. That's the difference between just a special love relationship and a holy companionship. Holy companionships, they're friends first. Stay vigilant for your personal shadows and triggers. Watch your latent tendencies. Watch your habitual patterns. Bring them into conscious awareness where they can be healed. Very important. You cannot heal each other. Don't even try. If you're both therapists, that's not going to work either. You can only help each other identify your own obstacles to peace and bring them into conscious awareness. Enable each other to find the most appropriate help. Remember, you cannot be both therapist and lover. One will have to go, and lover is always the one that goes first. Remember that no one point of view is perfect. No such thing. And what are we? Thoughts and form, points of view. And there's no such thing as perfect points of views. If you take the collective's point of view and you collapse it into one, transcendence. Until then, we're asleep. If it was easy, if it was perfect, it would be complete and whole, and we would have no need to project and incarnate into form and to different sexualities. That's why Jesus won't return physically. He's now part of our gradually awakening collective dreaming mind. That's why Jesus is no longer a body talking to anybody. He's simply an awareness, a shared awareness we all have, Christ-mindedness. Quantum entanglement. Two particles come together like two meteors collide in space. They share each other's energy and they go off in different directions. It's a natural effect for all thoughts and form. So you leave a little bit more of her and she leaves a little bit more of you. You collect. If you choose to stay together and move in that direction inwards, you could have a true shared mighty companionship where you're truly sharing your true shared self. Unless you do, and unless you recognize your true shared self, our true Christ self, we stay trapped in the belief in lonely separation and never awaken to self. Honest hope and art discussion leads to bringing our wounded shadows into the light of awareness where healing can occur. No thought form can dissolve on its own. It requires awareness. Be the mirror that brings awareness into awareness. A healed point of view can self-regulate together or alone. They can remain authentic and vulnerable. They remain okay even when those around them aren't. They know they are contributing to our collective healing just by allowing themselves to be healed and to be shared. We all have parts of ourselves that we want to heal. Some say improve parts of ourselves. You can't improve yourself. You're simply remembering what you are. A special love relationship offers us the perfect opportunity for this to happen if we are not confused about what we are and unless we are and if we are not unwilling to be fully committed to help each other heal. We have to be. This is a true mighty companionship is a relationship where two fractured selves choose to be of service to one another in each other's healing. Know that you cannot change someone's Kent, Clark Kent. Think of Clark Kent. Knowledge, experience, nature, and talents. You can highlight their blind spots, but you cannot change their nature. Be careful with your own wounded bias that you start projecting your self-hatred onto someone else and then finding fault with what is natural for them. Look for healthy shadow confrontation and look for confined resolutions. Look for solutions together. Ensure that your shared values and beliefs are the same. And then you can ignore the little differences. Remember, differences attract, similarities align. Learn to navigate yourself through conflict. Resolve, don't close down and avoid. You now understand the different attachment dramas: fearful avoidant, dismissive avoidant, anxious attachment. Don't take conflicts personally. There is no individual personal. Love is our shared beingness. Always keep this in mind. It's the reason you've got into a relationship. If you were attracted to them in the beginning and you both are willing to heal, there's no reason why you can't make that work out forever. Operate from a place of love, which is safe and secure. And if it's not, make it that, where defenseless vulnerability can be expressed without the fear of criticism and punishment. That's why the masculine doesn't open up, because he believes that when he's vulnerable and defenseless, she's going to criticize and the feminine's going to criticize. Don't do that. Learn to be understanding. Learn to self-regulate your thoughts, your sensations, your feelings, and your emotions. Teach each other to help co-regulate each other. This is what creates unwavering trust. Nobody likes volatility. Nobody likes uncertainty. Nobody likes irrational thinking. Be open, be transparent. Learn to gently de-escalate your conflicts. Take accountability for your contribution in the conflict. If there's conflict, something's happened, even if the other person has misperceived your intentions. Look for solutions instead of problems to blame. Be careful not to see yourself as a victim of the world or a victim of the relationship you're in. If you're a victim of the relationship, you've attracted the relationship in order to reinforce your victimhood, or so that you could see that you're playing victim and step out of it and transcend it. Interdependence and containment. Now that the feminine movement is awoken to self, you don't have to be an independent woman to be powerful. You can be independent while you're on your own. The minute you move into a relationship, interdependence. You're not being owned. You're not being codependent. You're being contained. Contained is an ownership. It's allow yourself to be cared, nurtured, and protected. Okay? Without trust and faith in each other, you'll never be able to have an interdependent time, or you'll never be able to have an independent time, or be secure with your authentic self, and sometimes be codependent if you need to be in certain occasions. It's okay. But ultimately, it's about interdependence, which allows independence and codependence to swing and pendulate as you align. Look for shared joyous experiences. Not about building memories. It's about building present moment awareness. It builds enthusiasm for sharing your life together. Share the present moment. Constantly work on repairing and maintaining your connection. Don't go to bed angry. You've heard that thing before. Okay, if you make a mistake, own up to your mistake, bring it into the light of awareness. Okay, and if you've made an honest mistake, make an honest and concerted effort to repair your mistakes together. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second and just take some questions. Okay, so stay with me and bear with me. So I'm going to now be highlighting the general differences between the sexes in terms of attraction, attachment drama. Now, different sexes, masculinity, femininity. So again, it could be male-female relationship or female-female relationship, male-male relationship. One is predominantly more masculine than the other. They could both be very masculine, but one is always more masculine, one is always more feminine. Okay, so be aware of this as general statistical analysis. It's just generalizations, but if you're aware of it, you can see which ones are triggering you, which ones are triggering your partner. More men generally suffer from the avoidant attachment drama, and more women suffer from anxious attachment drama. But this is simply a matter of statistics. Now, notice I haven't said the masculine. I've said more men suffer from avoidant attachment drama, and more women suffer from the anxious attachment drama. And that's generally due to the traditional role play that men and women played in relationships. But again, it also applies to masculine and feminine, obviously. The feminine operates mainly from their pain body emotion, and thus never fully feel that they are worthy of receiving the love they deserve. So if that's a concept they hold within, if you don't believe you fully deserve it, guess what you're attracting into your space? Someone that doesn't believe you deserve it either. Or someone that no matter how much they love you, because you don't believe that you deserve it, you never see it anyway. The masculine operates mainly from their pain logic mind, thoughts, thoughts versus emotions. And that's why men will never know what women are thinking. And although women think they know what men are thinking, you don't. Okay. And thus they never really understand each other and they never really believe they're worthy of receiving the love they deserve. That men are always beating themselves up. And then you hear things like, does size matter? Right. Now you know why. And thus, remember, masculine, feminine, yin yang polarities. They never meet to resolve their differences and identify their shared similarities. What's our shared similarity? The I amness, the awareness we all are. And unless they can create a safe, vital, safe, and secure space where both can expose their vulnerable insecurities in order to help each other heal, if you can't do that, the relationship may be exciting, but it's not a mighty companionship where you come to resolve your unhealed shadow selves. And ultimately, all relationships, and the reason we're attracted to polarities is so we can heal our fractured polar opposite selves and bring us into the unification of one indivisible self. Remember, Adam falls asleep in the Garden of Eden. In his dream, there's an Eve, spare rib, Eve. Nowhere does it say after eating the apple, blah, 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 that Adam wakes up. Eve is a fractured part of himself, of the dreaming mind. Adam is representative of the fallen asleep dreaming mind. We are wired completely different. Men are masculine problem solvers, the feminine information gatherers. Therefore, both have very subjective perspectives as to what love and happiness means and how it should look and how it should play out. Like, remember, the masculine objectifies it, feminine fantasizes it. And both, therefore, have a delusional worldview, an unreality point of view, because unless it's whole and indivisible, it cannot be complete and healed. And that's why you'll see a lot of healed healers will end up alone, not lonely, alone. Why? Because they don't need to be validated by the opposite polarity. They've incorporated both polarities within their consciousness. Outwardly, they may still appear feminine or masculine. Within themselves, they've incorporated both yin yang, right and wrong mindedness, as joined. And what happens when you join the right and wrong mind? There's only right mindedness, the wrong mind dissolves. In the right mind, there's no polarity, there's only unity awareness. Okay. Then to make matters worse and more complicated, egoic programming is either objectified, the view of what love should look like for the masculine, what it should look like, or subjective fantasies of what love, what did I write there? Love should play out as for the feminine. So the feminine has a fantasy, of course, there's an objectification in it too, and the masculine has an objectified fantasy. Never allow yourself to see yourself as a victim of this world. Be aware that there's no such thing as masculine toxicity or toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. This is woke talk. This is propaganda talk, okay? And what do I mean by woke? Hey, everybody's sexuality is their own thing. The whole transgender challenge the world is going through is because within these characters that are moving into the transgender, inside, they're trying to melt both polarities. They're trying to bring the masculine and the feminine. It can't be done through the body, but they misperceive it. So they've been misled, and no one's guiding them to realize, hang a second, it's not what I change my body to be. It's my awareness needs to rise. But okay, it's the beginning of the shift. The fact that people are being confused by their sexuality is a natural consequence of separation. Don't blame people, don't attack people, don't find fault with them. Allow everybody to be themselves in whichever way they're expressing. You may not agree with it. Your religion may say it's wrong. I don't give a fuck. I really don't, especially what your religion says. The most important thing is, if you love God, you love every fractured part of yourself, because within every single fracture is the love of God. And the way you love God is the way you love your fractures. And if you cannot love them unconditionally, you know not what love is. And therefore, you have no cooking clue as to what God is. No matter how many times you can quote the scriptures and how many times you've written the Bible, read the Bible or the Quran or the whatever you've read, if you don't love everyone unconditionally, you have no idea what God is, and therefore no idea what you are, and therefore no idea what love is. And love will poke out its egoic self over and over again, and only you will be punished for it. Punished by yourself. God isn't doing any other punishment. Okay, remember that. It's our collective toxic dreaming mind who's unaware of what it is. Toxic masculinity, toxic femininity. Just we bandy the shit concepts around because some people have said it. Hey, let people be themselves. You know, if they want to be identified as a purple blind porcupine, let them be. What is it bothering you? Why? Do you know better? Are you fucking happy? Are you perfect? If you're not perfect, why are you pulling the piss out of someone who wants to see themselves as whatever they want to see themselves in? Hey, I'm a South African, I ride a motorcycle, think of myself as a cowboy. Fuck it. Who are you to tell me I can't be? Okay, so never allow yourself to be coerced into the devaluation of your values, your beliefs, your needs, and your wants, just so you can please your partner, just so that you can please your spiritual circle. Spiritual people aren't supposed to want anything or need anything. Hey, while there's a need and a want, there's a healing that needs to take place. Your need and your want is going to take you to that crossroad. You're going to face your shadow. And through forgiveness, through bringing it into the light of awareness, you recognize self. Because what is forgiveness? To recognize I've done this to myself. I'm just dreaming. I haven't done anything. Gratitude for seeing myself aware that I'm dreaming, aware that I'm the essence energy of awareness, aware that I'm the essence energy, the essential nature of God extending. Fulfill the silence, awakening to self. Be very careful on agreeing to short-term goals with your partners, because you agree to a short-term goal, for them it's a long-term goal. Things like moving cities, changing jobs, careers, open marriages. Careful. It sounds all romantic in the movies. Okay. If one person's not enough for you, well, then God isn't enough for you, because all one partner is. You can't love 8 billion people simultaneously. This is a plane of demonstration. You make a commitment to one partner, and that partner becomes the face of Christ. Yes, you see the face of Christ everywhere. But in the commitment to the Lord God of your being, you demonstrate to your one partner Christ-mindedness. And that's why long-term partnerships, holy companionships, two people walking side by side into the Ark of the Covenant, masculine and feminine merge, one indivisible self. Okay, so never ask that the other person gives up on their hobbies or what they love. If you have a better suggestion, bring it into the light of awareness. Perhaps they may give up motorcycling to go horse riding with you, or whatever the case may be. But don't expect them to just give up their hobbies just because you don't think it's wonderful, or you don't like football or rugby or motorcycle, whatever the hell it is. Or you think ballet is stupid and she's wasting her time going to dance classes. Hey, women love a good dancer. Why do you think Ghost is still such a popular movie, and Dirty Dancing? Ah, learn to dance, gentlemen. If not, you've got a problem. Just my opinion. Okay, leave the history of the sexes in the non-existent past. The past doesn't exist. Leave the stories of discrimination, racism, sexism in the book of forgotten forgiveness. Choose to be here and now. It doesn't make racism right, but if you want to really let racism go, don't talk about it ever again. If you want sexism to go, don't ever talk about it again. Yes, the masculinity fucked up for thousands of years. As the masculine awakes into itself, it doesn't mean we now want to get all feminist and punish the masculine. Let's find consensus. Let's agree. Let's walk this thing together. Don't blame masculine as a whole. What about the men that are making an effort and the masculine that's making an effort to understand the feminine and incorporate the feminine? There are many masculine men like myself who've always treated women as complete and total equals. Yes, we may find them more attractive than the masculine because we're masculine. But hey, exactly equal. I've always treated women since I can remember in exactly the same way, or any person with any sexual whatever, or it's never mattered to me. And all my friends think that way. All my male friends think that way. I only surround myself with male friends that see the world from this non-judgmental perspective. There's not a single one of us that has ever been racist. We're of all different colors and creeds. We don't even think race. I'm always surprised when people bring up racism issues or sexual issues. It's never been an issue to us. There's thousands of us like that. Gravitate towards those. Leave the sexists and racists to figure it out for themselves. You're not going to change the world. You can only change the awareness of self. Extend. Be the passionate Christ self you are. Extend the passion of the Christ you are by extending your right-minded compassion to all your fractured selves. Leave the blame game. Compassion is the highest form of connection. This primordial connection reminds us of our true self, the passion of Christ, and the life force which flows through us, pure Christ-minded energy. Life and form is only about relationships. And this means, how do I relate on every aspect of all my relationships with my fractured self? So this old Buddhist principle, detach, bullshit. You do not detach. If the Buddhist principle of detachment worked, all the Buddhists would be floaty, floaty right now. They're not floaty, floaty. They still have to shave their heads and wear orange robes and careful not to step on ants. It doesn't work. You don't detach. You're non-attached. You embrace all of it. You return to God. You find self. You become aware that you are pure awareness. And then you pour yourself compassionately in. And then the I am that you are remembers, the dreamer that you are remembers the oneness of our one indivisible self. There's no pressure for you, the Jiva body mind character. You don't enlighten. The stories of Jesus are bullshit. Ramana Maharishi sat all day long and people came and bothered him. Didn't really want to talk to anyone. You know, he struggled with his legs. He struggled with his hips. He was human, physicality. The body doesn't become enlightened. The mind is becoming enlightened. The mind of a Ramana Maharishi, Nisargadatta, Lujipu, Jesus, all those minds awake to self. What does it mean? They recognize our one shared indivisible self, and that no body mind is special. Nobody mind's communicating with any other body mind. It's our right-minded Christ mind that brings us to the thought of God, or the yakety-yak chattering ego dreaming mind constantly convincing us that we are body minds and need to be special. What are you? What you choose to be is what you remember. What you remember is what you know you are. What you know you are is what you extend. All temporal, informed relationships provide us with an opportunity to realize what we are through the experience of what we're not. In Advaita, it's called neti neti. Relationships remind us of our true essential nature by showing us what we really want through the experiences of what we don't want. And so you have to go through it. So don't go back and go, "Ooh, I wish I'd known that back then. I can't believe I made all those mistakes." You had to make all those mistakes. You had to fuck it up properly so that you could get to a point of desperation and eventually, in your desperation, scream up to the heavens and say, "There must be another way." And yeah, you are. The non-dual has found you. You found the non-dual, and you're being returned to self. Hey, this isn't something special. This is the voice for God talking through a fractured part of you, reminding you of something that we all already are and just seem to be remembering. Nothing to do. We're already awake. We just seem to have not forgiven ourselves, but we're already awake to self. We only remember the love we are once we've experienced all the negative and ugly thoughts and emotions that we don't want. Go, okay, I'm no longer this. It's okay to have fucked up. In actual fact, everybody has to in order to awaken to self. Okay. We only remember the peace of God we are when we no longer want the suffering that comes with our nightmarish adventures away from the source of our present joyous peace. In other words, when we really seek for the kingdom above all else, and the stuff of the world and the needs of this world and the desires of this world are secondary. Okay. Once we fell asleep, we contracted into limited life form, separated by what we think is our skin. But if you put your hand up in the air like this, how far is your hand from the furthest point in space? How far is the connection between your hand and the furthest point in the universe? You're connected to it right here, an inch away. That's it. All of you's connected in consciousness. All of you's connected in awareness and truth. Okay, when we contracted into physical appearances and thoughts and forms and body-mind apparitions, okay, we forgot what we were. When we align our life force, we allow the light. Imagine it traveling through you. You're in it because you're just becoming transparent. Okay, and so allow the light to flow through you, the light of God to flow, extend through you, and this is how we heal our fractured selves. You bring it into the light of awareness. This is how we remember our true shit self, our true Christ self, our true extension of God we are. Okay, this is how we remember the infinity. Life is love in perpetual extension. The life force, that's why you don't die. The body apparition seems to disappear. The life force just either regurgitates, reincarnates into another thought and form in order to practice again, or if it awakens to self and recognizes it was just a thought form, it releases it from the secret dream and it returns to Christ mind, where it's always present, where it's always now, where it's always awake, and where it observes its dreaming fractures with no point of view, just pure awareness, not paying attention. We collectively, we're one indivisible beingness, Christ mind. We are love, extending. What does it matter what polarities we play? What does it matter what the differences are? What does it matter the difference of opinions on how we should pray to God? What does it matter? Don't get stuck like the dogmatic old religions did. This is the only way. If you don't do it this way, you're going to hell and damnation. They've tried, they failed, it's failing, hence the non-dual is coming into the surface of awareness. Don't be judgmental because that's the way they were. If it triggers you, bring it into surface. Forgive is to forget. Okay. Forgiveness is the key to remembering the truth of the life force, love we are. Gratitude is the doorway. Abiding as awareness is being here now. And the destination, the I am, the I, we all are, has never left. Okay, so beware of the general differences. Just always remember that. Don't get trapped in the differences. We don't dispel darkness by focusing on the darkness. We dispel darkness by focusing on the light. We don't heal by trying to fix. We heal by abiding as awareness, resting in God, resting in peace. When we focus on the light expands through us. The same applies to the problem in your relationships. You can't get rid of the problems with your partner by focusing on the problem. You get rid of the problems by focusing on what you need to do right, what they're doing right. Compliment them on what you're doing right. You want the masculine to do more of the things you love him doing. Compliment him for the things he's doing right. You'll do more of them. Okay? And then show appreciation and for their efforts. They'll then naturally do it. They'll do more of the right things. You keep complaining. You think he's going to stop doing it? He's not. Okay? If the healing of both your fractured selves is not an equal priority for both partners in a relationship, then neither will heal. And if one heals, the relationship will end. Both have to want to heal for the relationship to continue. If only one wants to heal, then only one will heal, but the relationship will end. And then you'll be all disappointed. I've healed, but they've moved away. Of course they have. They still need to learn the lesson somewhere else. Once you've healed, you move into higher up the pyramid where you will attract naturally, without effort, an equal level, polarized mirror of yourself. Don't chase. Abide in gratitude. It'll come to you. Okay. If you accept yourself as you are and surrender to yourself as you are, and if you think you are powerless in your life and in your relationships, then what you're going to do? If you have to accept yourself and you have to surrender yourself, what are you going to do? You then start to look for every opportunity to heal. But if you're hanging on to what you were and insisting it should be that way, you're going to be stuck there. You contain the power of Christ. which is Christ is the love of God, the power of God, the power and the glory of God. That's what Christ is. The extension of God is God created his sons like unto himself, extensions of himself. Your son fell asleep and dreamt you up, but within you is Christ's mind. While you identify as a body mind, you're not aware that the truth of you is Christ. Let go, let God. You contain the power of Christ in you to become whole, to become healed, to be the change you want to see in a world of separation and forgetfulness. When your priority, and this is the most important, in a relationship, when your priority becomes to extend the love of God you are, and the love of God you are will extend into your relationship, and you will transform your relationship into a loving, mighty companionship. Where two are gathered in my name, there Christ is always. If your partner refuses to accept the line of the love you are and the love you extend, that relationship will end. You can't change them. Hell, I've tried. Okay? Communication leads to communion. Communion is love. Communion is love in union. Communion, love in union. But if one partner insists on being right and always blaming, at some stage you're going to cut it. You're just going to walk away, because sometimes it's no point in trying to drag a fractured part of yourself who's not ready to awaken to the light of awareness. Let them be. Everybody will awaken at the appointed time. What we try and do is we try and drag parts of the script that aren't part of our script into our script and then try and change it. Effortless alignment. Inspired action. Never forget that both partners' priority, if it's not to remember self and to heal, you're not in an unconditional, loving, mighty companionship. You're in a transactional relationship, and transactional relationships are special love relationships, and they are designed to fail. Ultimately, the final guidance I can offer you, it comes out of chapter 6 and chapter 7 in A Course in Miracles. Okay, being unassailable and without change. Okay, that's the truth of what we are. Love, the light we are, the awareness we are. It doesn't need our protection. Okay, only our awareness of being needs our protection. Awareness doesn't need anything. Okay, awareness is what we are. Love is what we are. Only our awareness of being needs our protection through being vigilant only for God's kingdom. So remember this. Two people move into a relationship to serve the Christ in one another. That is what it means to have all, to be aware, Christ-minded. The infinite lightness of being is what we are. The Lord God of our being is what we are. The love I am recognizes the love you are. To have all, you give all. Because to recognize you are it is to offer it. To offer it is to give it is to be it. To have peace, you teach peace to learn it. So we're always teaching, we're always learning, and learning is to remember. Be vigilant, always and only for God in your relationship. If you put the memory of God as your priority for both of you, if God is your priority in a relationship, that relationship will become mighty beyond explanation. I know many such couples who do. I'm telling you, they are the most beautiful, loving, compassionate relationships I've known. And I've got several friends like this. Okay. Having is being. When you recognize that having is being, being is having, you're ready for the final step. And you have to do nothing. You'd simply abide, offer yourself compassionately into your dream, offer yourself as an example to your fractured selves, and God takes the final step. Next week, we're going to talk specifically about mighty companionships and creating safe and secure space for healing, mighty companionships. So how do we, practical example, how do we practically create safe space for one another? I hope this has been helpful. Hope this has brought you into the light of awareness. Listen to this again. The notes are there. You don't have to agree with everything I've said. It's just stats that's in the world of duality, but hopefully it's brought you into the awareness. Don't go beat yourself up for the things you've done wrong. You had to do the wrong things to get yourself here where you're looking for a better way. Don't escape relationships. You don't have to be lonely. Doesn't matter what age you are. even if you're not looking for a relationship with the opposite, whatever, hey, be open to mighty companionships. It means friendships, it means colleagues, or it could mean a beautiful living companion. Don't denounce, stay open. God knows what you need. God knows what his son needs. You're a fractured part of the son. Stay open to love. Let love be your way. Be blessed. See you next week.